Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Reach Films podcast. I am your host, Jeff Fagan, and today we are talking about this hot rumor from the Canon rumor website, CanonRumors.com, talking about a possible release of a Canon camera that will have a way to shoot R3D red code RAW in the camera internally. So without further ado, if you guys are new here, my name's Jeff Fagan. I'm a filmmaker, DP, content creator based in South Florida. And like I said, we're going to talk about this hot rumor because the Komodo has been a really spicy RF mount camera. A lot of people who've never even shot red before have moved to using this camera, but a lot of them are also Canon users. Hence, it's why it's great that the Komodo has an RF mount. But I think what's kept a lot of us prior red users to moving completely to Canon cameras, especially their cinema cameras, is their RAW codec just has not been as good as the R3D red code RAW codec from Red itself. And the fact that Canon could potentially be coming out with a new camera that has the ability to shoot R3D red code RAW, but also has the ability to shoot B-RAW, ProRes RAW. It's very interesting, so we're going to go over that today. So first, let me pull up the article from CanonRumors.com. So here is Canon Rumors article. And they're pretty spot on for a lot of their content. This is a CR3 rumor, which means it's relatively reliable, but it's, again, can't be completely taken at face value. First, their first camera on the rumor list is the Canon C200 Mark II, which is essentially going to be a new RF mount version of the C200 in a Super 35 sensor. The rumor is it's going to have the same sensor as the C70, 4K up to 120 frames per second. It's going to shoot RAW internally, uses two SD cards V90. So I think, number one, the real question is going to be, if it's the same 4K sensor as the C70, what are some of the extra features we're going to be getting? I guess it's 4K 120, but it's not going to be a downsampled image in 4K if it's going to be the same sensor as the C70. But that's interesting. I'll be interested to see what this C200 Mark II is, but that's not going to really be the main focus of today's video. The main focus is this Canon Cinema EOS C700 Mark II. This is what's going to be interesting. So the rumor is user swappable sensors at launch, a Super 35 5K global shutter sensor, or a full frame 8K DGO rolling shutter sensor, which means that the 8K sensor may actually potentially be better in low light, even though it's a higher resolution because of the dual gain output of the 8K. Now, apparently, there's going to be some, according to this rumor, some interesting way that you can actually get a direct mount EF or LPL mount on this camera, even though it has an RF mount. So instead of just using an adapter on your RF mount, they're saying there's going to be some kind of mount that you can assemble right on top of the RF mount and make it work as if your lenses are mounted directly to an EF mount and not an adapter. So that should be interesting because a lot of cinema users definitely request that. They want to minimize the amount of wiggle anywhere in the lens setup, especially when using a follow focus. So I completely understand that. They're saying it may have two CF Express Type B card slots and one SD card slot, which makes total sense if this thing is going to be able to shoot 8K in RAW. Now, here's where the codec information comes in. This will be a very codec-heavy camera, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So they're saying internally it'll have XAVC, ProRes, which is cool, and Cinema Raw Lite. So that will be internal codecs on this C700 Mark II. But externally, they're saying that it can get B-RAW, ProRes RAW, and that is going to be with the Blackmagic Video Assist or Ninja V or Ninja V Plus. I guess we'll figure out which one, which the V and the V Plus does. I'm assuming maybe the V will do maybe the 5K and the Plus will probably do the 8K, but we'll see. But then here's where things get a lot spicier. Cinema RAW with the codecs CDX 36150, so you'll get a better RAW codec with whatever this codec's external device is, probably from Canon, But then there's another external device, and it's a module recorder, apparently developed in partnership with Red to record REDCODE to a proprietary media. Now, nothing has been released about this. This is just a rumor. However, it's a very spicy and interesting rumor because it will, if from my understanding, be the first non-red camera, or sorry, non-red camera to shoot R3D REDCODE RAW. And it'll be interesting to see what that means. Because if you can do everything in the R3D just like you do when you're using a Komodo or a V-Raptor or a DSMC2, that is going to be extremely interesting, because part of the really cool part about R3D REDCODE RAW is there's a lot of tools in the RAW tabs to be able to grade the footage yourself without having to like use a LUT or whatever. And if you can do that on this camera, that is going to be interesting. Just to finish this out, they're saying it may have 4 SDI outputs for different monitoring workflows. So this is definitely going to be a production camera. The design is apparently somewhat closer to the C300 Mark II, so that should be interesting. And there's prototypes apparently already being tested out in the field. Now, while we're talking Red, the one thing I do want to note with this C200, and let me pull myself full screen here. So you may notice I have this camera right here, and let's see if I can bring that up on the screen as well. Yeah, I can. So you have this camera right here, and this is an older article from EOS HD. And there were rumors a little while back about Canon coming out with some type of camera that was similar in the way, its style, its presentation, the body style to a Komodo. And so I'm wondering, I don't think the C700 Mark II is going to be this. I think it's going to be bigger. But the question would be, is this what's going to be the C200? And is that what's going to make the C200 make a lot more sense, the C200 Mark II? Because if they're having a lot of the same features as the C70, what would make it worth buying the C200 Mark II versus a C70? Well, making it a modular camera, I think that's one way to definitely do it. So here's one of the mock-up drawings, again, from EOS HD. And they don't specify what camera this is or what camera it would be in this article. However, I'm speculating that this rumor has been around long enough. I do think it's going to be, if that is true, what the C200 Mark II may potentially be. Which means we'll finally have a modular Canon camera, and something that kind of competes with the FX30 and the FX3 from Sony, because the FX3 and the FX30, that's kind of Sony's modular camera right now. And Canon doesn't, at least an RF mount, doesn't really have anything that kind of fits that bill. So it'll be interesting to see. But I wanted to talk about the potential of the R3D codec coming out in the Canon C700 Mark II, because, like I said earlier, I think it's definitely going to pave the way. I don't know for other companies if it's true to shoot R3D RAW, but it's going to show, number one, more of the relationship between Canon and Red themselves to kind of solidify that. You know, Jared Land, the CEO, has spoken a lot, especially in Scott Balcom's live streams. So if you haven't seen Scott Balcom's live streams, definitely pay attention, because there are some hidden nuggets that go on in there that aren't really covered by many of the camera websites. They're not really public info, but Jared's cool enough to go on Scott's streams and discuss them. So definitely take a look at those. But he's discussed, you know, that Red has a great partnership with Red, and this could just be further evidence of that. And so I'm excited to see where this goes, because if it's true and it happens, it could be the tip of the iceberg, and it could be interesting. I don't even know what I would think about mixing Canon and Red in the same workflow as far as having R3D RAW in both cameras. Now, granted, I keep saying in both cameras. The R3D RAW apparently would be used with an external codecs, and I guess before I get too far ahead of myself, the question is going to be, it said proprietary media. What is that proprietary media going to be, and what's the price of that media going to be? because if it's too much, then it may outweigh the worth of getting a Canon camera that shoots R3D. And if you really wanted R3D at that point, maybe you just go get a RED. But we'll see. You know, it's really going to depend on the pricing, and I don't expect anything like this to be affordable, at least for the first prototype or the first release of whatever this product may be. So it'll be interesting. But I wanted to discuss that today. For everyone who's here, if you have any questions about this, you have anything you want to discuss, make sure to put them in the comments below. I'll keep this going for a few more minutes, but that was the gist of today's video. I think the rumor of this is just interesting, especially with if it has great autofocus, like the Canon autofocus. I don't know if you have seen the C70 is getting a crazy firmware update where it's getting eye tracking autofocus. And I wonder if maybe the cinema line will start to get a lot of the stills autofocus benefits. And if it does, and again, it's a camera that shoots R3D RAW, I'm just really excited at what the possibilities can be. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you have any questions about this, I'll put a link to the article in the description below that we're discussing, and I'll also get to them as I see them. If you got knowledge and value out of today's video, please make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell to keep up to date with the latest videos from the channel. Till next time, my name is Jeff Fagan. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.